All right, and welcome to the first ever Google Hangout season preview. We have the crew of the Weekly Rebound here, Connor Sauer and Greg Horne. We're going to get to them in a second. I'm the commissioner, Joey Zocco. We're going to break down the Connecticut rosters for you, and we're going to try something new this season with some of these Google Hangouts with different shows, with our podcast this way, as well as audio, so you can consume it in a ton of different ways. Let's start with Greg Horne. Greg, what's going on, man? Another season's finally here.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be back. I can't wait to talk Legacy League basketball with, one of the worst mid-range shooters ever to play in the league, and Connor. And, I'm just really glad to be back, Joey. I hope you're ready. I know you're playing, and I look forward to seeing what you brought with Run TMC.
Yeah, TMC's back. Connor Sauer, respond to that straight disrespect from Greg Horne.
Greg does it all the time. I feel like he just forgets that he also played in the Legacy Leagues. He was equally, if not worse than me. I would say actually worse than me. That's pretty confident. And if he wants to challenge me one-on-one, I've already been promoting it. All-Star break. Let's go, Greg, one-on-one. We'll settle that once and for all. But
I don't want to embarrass you like that. But, I mean, maybe I'll do it. Maybe.
But in terms of Legacy Leagues, man, I'm just glad it's coming back for another season. It's my third one in a row now. And, can't get enough Legacy Leagues. Love doing the pod with you fellas. And I'm just really looking forward to another great season.
Let's do it. So as you can tell, I'm under the weather, but the pod must go on. So I'm here to debut our new show type with this Google Hangout. But guys, let's start to reveal these rosters. I get to struggle through all the names. We have 10 teams in Connecticut this winter, and games will be Monday night starting December 3rd at InSports as always. We'll start with the runner-ups from last season. We're going to jump right into it, and then we'll do some season superlative preview stuff at the end. But we'll start with Run TMC. As Greg mentioned, my squad is back and returns a pretty good chunk of it. Eric Singleton, Cody DiLeonardo, and Reggie Stewart. And then some familiar Legacy League faces that are new to Run TMC. Mike Cody, Eric Langston, and Howie Miller, plus a spot or two to be filled later. Guys, whoever wants to take it away, let's start with the team that, may I remind everyone, made a finals run thanks to a heroic shot in the semifinals by Eric Singleton, and was in a tied game in the finals with under a minute to go. I don't want to put it on the refs, but I might have to put it on the refs. But it was a very good game with Shocker City, who are the defending champs. But guys, Run TMC, what do you like with this team?
I'll start. And, also I want to congratulate Run TMC. That Eric Singleton shot was that's one of the best shots we've ever seen in this league. But to quote the great Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. So, this Run TMC team, it's really a great team. And this team, I think, is better than last season's team. I mean, Mike Cody brings something that really, I don't think you guys, people really sleep on the Codys. And I remember I was talking to an unnamed GM in this league. I won't say who it was, but I was talking about, Joey might have some sleepers, and, he was getting a little angry because I brought up Mike Cody. So, I think that addition is going to be a big addition, especially in the playoffs with experience. And then Eric Langston, Howie Miller. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, I think Run TMC stacked and even better, and I think they might get their first championship.
Yeah, I actually really like what TMC did in the offseason. And one of the guys from Joey's old arch rival, No Limit, and now putting him in the blue and white, that's going to be interesting to see. And I also really like bringing Eric Langston. I don't see K1 Bynum on this roster. He was that physical piece down low for you guys. So to bring in a guy like Eric now, at least you guys still have that presence in the paint. You're going to be able to block shots and be able to stop guys at the rim. Defensive player of the year, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he knows how to get it done on the defensive end, get some offensive boards for you guys, kick out to Joey, Howie, a bunch of great shooters, Reggie. So I really like the dynamic of this roster. I think it just, once again, another great job, masterful job by the commish, putting it all together. And I'm really interested to see Run TMC, and I think that they're going to be one of the early favorites to go to the championship this year.
And just to recap, you talk about Reggie time a lot. Greg mentioned Mike Cody. There was a time when the Monstars relied heavily on Mike Cody in the finals to win one of their two championships. It was Mike Cody time at the end of that finals game against Redemption. So, I'm excited, man. It's always fun for me when I get to be one of the worst players on my team. That means I did a pretty good job. We're going to go to team number 2, a new team called Gentlemen's Club. And guys, I'm going to read off these names. I know you may know some of them, but it's one of, anytime there's a new team, whether you know them or not, there's some unknown. and we can let Greg do his jersey size analysis. We'll bring it back from last year. But Gentlemen's Club features Will Lutz, Lucas Alberino, Joseph Massenet, Robbie Beyer, Alex Bowden, Brian Jackson, Matthew Jeffries, Nick Lancia, and Ed Fitzgerald. So, Greg, you said you recognized the name from this team earlier. What do you got on Gentlemen's Club?
Yeah, Robbie Beyer. There was a kid in the grade above me when I was in high school that was Robbie Beyer, and I actually messaged a few of my friends, and they think it might be him too. But I mean, I'm not sure. What I will say is they only got one small jersey on this team. They got 6 larges and 2 extra larges. This team's gonna body you in the paint. I said it last year with Nick Strong. I knew Nick Strong would be a team like that, and they absolutely were. I don't know if they'll shoot like Nick Strong, but what I can say about a new team coming to this league is I just hope they're ready for how fast-paced and physical and intense this game is. I think a lot of people, when I talk about this league, they think, oh, it'll be kind of easy, and then you come and play, and it's the exact opposite. The only person I've really ever seen come and make it look easy was maybe Greg Langston, but there was even games against STP where he would struggle. So this team, I hope they're ready. I love the name Gentlemen's Club, and I'll be rooting for them going forward.
Yeah, I love the immediate reference to Nick Strong. Definitely a throwback to last season when we didn't know any of those faces, and Greg was really just basing it off jerseys. And then when they walked in, they all lived up to their jersey size. They had some stocky guys on that team. They were definitely one of the more physical teams in the league, and they had a good year. They had a good run. So, obviously not a whole lot to go off of here based on names that we're not too familiar with. We really basically go off what we've seen in seasons past. So, basically what Greg said, just be ready to get thrown into the fire. It's not easy. It's not, a bunch of easy dunks in Lob City all day. It's going to be intense. It's going to be physical. And, if these guys are competitive, they're just going to be another great addition to the league. And I just hope that they expect competition when they walk through those doors of InSports on that Monday night of opening night, because it's definitely going to be a taste of reality if they're not ready for it. They'll definitely, I don't know who they're playing in their week 1 matchup, but, you got to take all these teams the same. Everyone's good. Everyone comes out to play. So I'm excited to see these guys and how they fare this year in the season.
No one knows yet who they're playing, but some sabermetrics, as they like to say, from Greg Horne with the jersey size. Hashtag sabermetrics. I love it. So now we get some teams that we should be familiar with. As I talked about, the Young Kings are back, and they feature Eddie Whitman, Dante Abate, Miles Raymond, then some new faces, Xavier Lyons, Peter Barone, Paul Tesaro, and Jordan Higgins. I'll apologize for everyone for butchering any names. That takes some time for us to get used to it. But, guys, you can break down Young Kings, and then we're going to be joined by a special guest in a little while. So, Greg, Young Kings are back. I talked to Eddie, and he said, oh, all the good teams are back. And it's like, well, it is a loaded league this year. And the Young Kings showed some signs last season of, getting the hang of this as the season went on.
No, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Eddie Whitman was probably one of our better interviews last year. I think Connor will absolutely agree. We love the Young Kings. We're a fan of the Young Kings on this podcast. And, as we welcome Sam in here, I actually, Xavier Lyons, one of my sources has told me he played at East Haven High School, and I think Melquan Horton might know him. So he could actually be a big addition to this team if he's part of the breed that Melquan Horton is. And then you bring back Eddie Whitman, who's a knockdown shooter. He'll shoot over a 40% clip easily this year. Miles Raymond, I think he'll take an Eric Langston type step this year, and I think he's gonna Eric Singleton, excuse me. And I think I'm gonna give credit to Connor for once getting something right and calling Miles Raymond as like Eric Singleton. I think he could be a poor man's like Eric Singleton. Not as good as Eric Singleton, but the way he can play is like similar to that. And then you bring in Dante Abate, who just he does what he does every game. He brings the intensity, he brings a physicalness that I think they lacked last year. And when he really got going, they kind of started really going and their offense started flowing. So, I look for this Young Kings team to be really a sleeper and maybe pick up 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah, what I immediately like about this Young Kings team is when I was talking to Eddie last season, during the interview and, of course, just on game nights and whatnot, he was basically telling us how he put that team together really fast. He didn't have like a whole lot of time. He really was just trying to get as many people as he can on the roster. So maybe now he's had, a whole off season and some of these new faces who we're not familiar with, I really wouldn't be surprised if these dudes are studs. And, he's got some size. He's got a good mixture of ball handlers, shooters, because Eddie has some high basketball IQ. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went out and got some pieces that he feels complemented his big three, which I would consider him, Dante, and Miles. So, last year they brought in some dudes mid-season that had some really good size and gave that team a really big boost. So I'm interested to see how they're all going to gel this season and, what these guys bring to the table. But my man Sam's back, so I'm interested to see what Sam's got to think about these upcoming teams as well.
Yeah, and Sam Leventhal is here. Sam, you didn't miss much. We just talked about the runners-up of the league from last year in Run TMC. No big deal. I'm sure you had enough fun talking about them. And the young team, so
never enough fun predicting you to lose.
You guys are all over the Miles Raymond bandwagon. I think Greg is driving the bandwagon. Connor may be riding shotgun. Sam, where do you fall on Miles Raymond? I have nothing against him, but Eric Singleton is some tall shoes.
I'm saying he's a poor man's.
Okay, poor man. Sam, go
no
ahead.
one's Eric.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with Connor and Greg. I'm all in on Miles Raymond. I'm riding right in the back seat if Connor's got shotgun. So I'm definitely in on that. But Greg, you hit it on the nose. Is no Eric Langston. In this league, it's really hard to beat the Langston brothers. And I don't really think there's much of better talent that we've seen come across the league since we started this thing in 2016. I've been around for a while, and I don't think I've seen as much dominant talent like those guys. Yeah, you got Mike Davis and Reggie Stewart, etc. I don't think that the raw talent and physique of those guys can be compared to. It's like comparing LeBron James and Kobe. LeBron, Kobe, two very good players, but the different physiques of these two players allow them to do so many different things. And I think that in basketball, if you have the raw talent and you have the strength, you're going to come out on top pretty much most of the time, as we've seen from players like LeBron. And I guess you could use players like Blake Griffin as well, who are just, these monsters that can drive and get a bucket whenever they want. So that's what I kind of see from Eric and Greg Langston and even Dominique. But as far as Miles Raymond, I'm sitting in the back seat right behind Connor and Greg.
Yeah, I just want to say, we just mentioned Miles Raymond in the same sentence as LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. So we are off to a hot start here.
Only hot takes.
And spitting fire. Let's move on to the fourth team. Team Moose is back, guys, and they have a couple familiar names as well as one that is anonymous. So they don't even give me the full roster when I ask for it. A classic Team Moose fashion. But Kevin Blake, Brad Seaman, Dan Nadaf, Matt Mazzocchi, and Melquan Horton, some of the names you may recognize. And Jesse Morrow, a new name, using some of those sabermetrics Greg likes to use. He's a medium, another guard for Team Moose. Not going to help their size, which has been their advantage through much of the past couple seasons. But we'll start with Greg. We'll just keep it rolling. Team Moose back in their black and orange. Where did they finish? Were they in the semis last year? I can't remember. I believe so. Or the quarterfinals. But they always are a threat in the playoffs. And Greg, what do you expect from Team Moose this winter?
Well, first off, they lost Jackson Machanek and our Trevor Chavez, whatever you want to call him. They lost probably the tallest guy in the league. And that's going to hurt them. Last year he was an absolute beast. He shot 90%. He missed like 10 shots in the year. It was absolutely absurd what he did. But knowing Team Moose, I trust them. They bring back Melquan Horton as one of the top 10 players in this league without a doubt. The anonymous scares me because when Team Moose has an anonymous extra large, who knows who that could be? But I'm supposed to hate Team Moose. I'm supposed to be Team Moose's villain. So I think Team Moose is going to have a rough year. I think they have a great team they're bringing back. But for me, losing Jackson Machanek is going to be rough, especially with you guys adding Eric Langston. I know Shocker City coming up has a new big guy. And I know even the team we're going to talk about next has a big guy. So all I know is that losing Jackson might hurt them, but I got to put the Team Moose villain role. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that having a big man in this league, not even necessarily like a big man that can score points, but just a big man that does big man things, that gets rebounds, that plays physical. Basically all the things I highlighted when I was talking about Eric Langston. Those are the types of dudes that really give teams an advantage, especially if you complement them with good surrounding pieces, good perimeter players, good perimeter defenders as well, guards that can also lock up and make it easy for those guys. They don't have to slide as much and able to really patrol the other team's big man. So I think that you know, having that size advantage taken away from them in a little bit by losing Jackson is definitely going to hurt. But you know, you never know with Team Moose. You know, that anonymous guy, extra large jersey, he could be a threat. You know, I like how they bring Melquan back. I think Melquan's going to be coming into this season with a lot of motivation. I can already tell you that. And, you know, some familiar faces. I remember Dan Nada from seasons past. You know, he walked in and I was like, oh, yeah, this guy's just another big man to give them size. But then when I saw him playing, that dude was surprisingly skilled. Very good footwork, very good mid-range touch. And I'm really glad to see him back. They never really had him and Jackson on the team at the same time. So to see both guys, you know, now on the roster at the same time together, I'm really interested to see how they do this upcoming season as well.
And Sam, it's never good when the anonymous is number 69.
Okay, yeah, I think Connor alluded to it very well, that when Team Moose brings a guy on, it's not just somebody that you can look right over the top of. You have to pay attention to whoever they bring on, because one thing that I've learned from Team Moose in the past, if anything, is that everybody on their team knows how to play a role. They all know how to do a job. And with everybody knowing what their role is and what their job is, these people, or this team, has been able to form this defensive juggernaut. I mean, if in the past, in the seasons that they've been in Legacy Leagues, I'd put a decent bet on that they've allowed the fewest points of any team over the same time period. So just adding a defensive juggernaut, and then they get out on the fast break and lead to quick scores, and that's just kind of how they do things. For them, bringing back Melquan Horton, who for them last year was a very solid defensive player, and he was quick enough to get out and lead some of the breaks, or just start some of the breaks, get some quick steals, quick hands, quick feet, and get his guys out in transition. So it's really difficult to just pass up on Team Moose from making another deep playoff run, even with this anonymous player that they have. You cannot count out Team Moose. They are a defensive juggernaut, and I expect nothing less this season.
Always a team to watch in Team Moose. Another team, a team that has won a title in the league, makes its return in the Chasers. And so another familiar team, a new team for this season, but a team that many of us will remember. Larry Littles, Dominique Langston, Jamal Jones, Pooch, Brandon Seabrook, Jalen Graham. So we don't know if he's making his return, but that would be a very nice addition for that team. Daron Vines, Deshaun Jennings, and David Armstrong. So guys, the Chasers will have Greg, who knows a lot of these guys, who gets some inside scoop, which makes it unfair for Connor. So Connor, it's not always fair on the podcast. I want to shout that out. But Greg, the Chasers are back, and they're also defending their title. They took a season off. And so it gets very interesting with some of these teams. What do you like about this version of the Chasers?
I like to call this Chasers team the 9-7 New York Giants. They remind me of a team like that, because they could absolutely win the Super Bowl, and no one's if the Giants make the playoffs at 9-7, two times they beat Tom Brady, who most people consider the GOAT. And we're not going to get into that argument, of course, now. But right now, this team, if Jalen Graham shows up and they ball and they mesh well, this team, I mean, this team's going to be really hard to beat. They're not as good as they were when they had Dede and Jerry, of course, because Dede and Jerry, I mean, we talked about Eric and Greg as being special. I think Greg, without a doubt, is the best player this league's ever seen. But I think Dede and Jerry are right there with Mike, without a doubt. I mean, and losing them obviously hurts. But then Larry goes out and he brings in Dominique Langston, who I think was the most underrated player on that Throne team last year. He always played hard, and he really wanted to win. He's one of those players that wants to win in this league, and a lot of the times people don't care or don't have the drive, and Dominique was absolutely not that. And then you bring back Pooch, who can get a little crazy at times. You know, the way he plays can kind of get a little out of hand, but when he's rolling, and I think his best role is not as the guy, but as one of the guys, I think this Chasers team top to bottom is absolutely perfect. But Deshaun Jennings is the wild card. Who is that man? We don't know who this man is. David Armstrong, interesting too, because we don't really know what team he's on right now. Is he on Shocker? Is he on Chasers? And the funny thing about it is those two could be playing for a title unless Run TMC or one of the other teams has something to say about it. So looking at the Chasers, I think they're one of the top teams in the league and one of the teams to beat this year.
Yeah, we always call Greg the Woj of the legacy leagues. He always has the inside scoop. So luckily, Greg's always nice, though. Greg always he hits me up before the pods and he gives me the list of the rundown. So normally I'm pretty up to date with my stuff. But when I'm looking at this team, something I was actually just texting Greg before this pod was, whoa, dude, Jalen Graham's playing, because I was not expecting that. And we all know Jalen Graham, if you're familiar with the legacy leagues, this dude has a built-up reputation of being one of the most elite guards that we've seen. So, we saw the last time he played was with No Limit. He basically pulled the KD, joined the super team, but he wasn't really there that much. He wasn't really there to play the games. When he showed up, they were all blowout games. And when it came time for the playoffs, he was basically thrown into some adversity with these guys who he's never really played with, and that didn't really work out too well for them. Obviously, they didn't go all the way with the roster that they really could have. So I'm really interested to see how much he plays on this Chasers team. And one thing I want to mention about this Chasers team, we've been talking about jersey size. I want to talk about the jersey colors. These dudes won the championship in the green and the white, and they changed their color. Why are you rebranding? You guys are champions. Like, what are you doing? So either they got screwed and didn't tell Joey which colors they wanted in time, and that was already chosen, or they just completely chose to rebrand a championship team. So maroon with white font is what I'm reading, and I'm just going to be a little bit disappointed to not see those DD jerseys, those green and white jerseys. For some reason, they look nice in those. So, but overall, this team, a lot of size and a lot of familiar faces. If they all play, they all show up, and they all give their best effort. I don't think a lot of teams can compete with these guys other than the top contenders. So definitely another very interesting, very intriguing team who I think is going to make some noise.
And before we get to Sam, they picked their jersey color before actually saying their team name. Wow. So it was a Larry choice of color first, not knowing the team name. Wow. And that's just how it goes sometimes. So you can't win them all. Before Sam goes, new jerseys, new style jerseys this season. How rude of me to wait till team number 6 to get to this. Legacy League logo on the back as well. It's going to be very, very fresh, very, very nice and new touch. We have the warm-ups, stuff like this, coming soon, and we got some new swag, which these guys will be wearing on the Google Hangouts. Sam, you were around the last time the Chasers won the title. You've been around a while, but where does this Chasers team stack up, Sam?
Well, unlike Connor, I am very ecstatic to see the Chasers not in green and white, because that green and white gives me PTSD from the one game that I ever played in Legacy League against Joey. You had me play against the Chasers, who ended up winning the title that season. What? I don't even know if I can go into that. That was a horrific game. Connor, Joey, and I all know about that matchup. The Chasers versus Stranger Danger. God, I don't know how you let that one go on the schedule. But the Chasers, another team to really look out for, like Greg said, and I think he really did put it best when talking about this team, given he did probably put it best because he knows half this team. But just a team to really be scared of in any aspect. Like you guys said, they could go out and hang with any of these teams, and that would include Shocker City. I really am scared to see what this team can, but also what they can't do. They are a hit or miss team, like Greg said, the 9-7 Giants. We're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. We're gonna have to see if everybody meshes very well, because that's one thing that's tough with teams who put together colors before team names first, is that you don't know what interactions you're gonna have because of all the random players that you're gonna have added so late. You got to know if personalities are going to mesh. You got to know who's going to be guarding what, who's best fit to play what style of defense, who's best to put in the corner and hook up some corner threes on offense versus, be the ball handler. And I think that's one thing that this Chasers team might struggle with. They're going to have to overcome some adversity here and decide on some roles. That's going to be my big thing this season, is making sure each team is going to know how to do a job and how to separate each roles from one person for another. Joey, I know you've accepted your role on the bench as player coach for a while. So Hopefully nobody on the team is gonna have to do anything like that, but they're gonna have to figure out some roles here, and I think that just kind of shows in something such as so small as figuring out team colors versus team name, first and second. So that's kind of showing to the forefront.
Yeah, for sure, and it brings me back to summer 17, that Run TMC team where the roles were hard to figure out, and that ended up costing us that season. I'm going to leave that there. One of the worst Run TMC seasons we've had. Let's get to team number 6, Nick Strong. They are also back, and they bring back a lot of familiar faces. Frank Morale, Taviar Pierce, the Vesicchio brothers, Anthony and Michael, Ryan Florentine, who was a late addition last season, Nick Durso, Mike Rillo, and Joe Goya. So 7 of the 8 guys returned, a Nick Strong team that had a pretty successful first season. We're in the upper half of the league over the summer and are back to do it again. Greg, Nick Strong, I know they're no Flint Tropics, who are also back, because I know Greg is all about Flint. But what about this Nick Strong team in their second season is going to change for the better?
I mean, first of all, you want to talk about jersey size. These jersey size don't Tavar Pierce is a medium. Tavar Pierce would kick all our asses at once. Are you kidding me? Tavar Pierce should be a quadruple extra large. That man is a beast. Then you got my boy Ryan Florentine. I like to call him Linguini because he's skinny like me, but he can absolutely ball. And if he shows up consistently to these games, now that they have depth, this Nick Strong team could win 5 games, 6 games easily. They just play their game. They never worry about any of these theatrics. They never worry about talking. I mean, they do their talking, but they complain. I mean, don't get me wrong. This team complains, but that's what they do. They just be themselves. They just go out there. They will rebound. They'll fight for every ball. They will shoot a lot of threes, and I mean a lot of threes. And I'm putting an emphasis on this. They will shoot so many threes, but somehow it works, and they will beat the bad teams in this league. And when they play the good teams, they'll give you a run for your money. You know, I remember them when they beat the Throne last year. I remember when they played really well against Shocker City. I remember they can, I mean, even against Team Moose, they can really just play a physical brand of basketball that you have to match if you want to play them. And I expect them to be right in the middle of the pack at the top tier of those middle teams once again.
Yeah, something that I've always liked about Nick Strong is very similar. I guess that's why we compare them to Flint Tropics sometimes, is that these guys are homegrown. These guys, have been friends, for basically their whole lives. You can tell that they've been developing chemistry, for years and years, off the court and as well as on the court. And I think that plays a role in a team's success is when you're very aware of how your teammates play. You're aware of the fact that the Vesicchios are going to chuck up 30 shots a game. You're aware that, Pierce is going to attack the basket, and he likes playing in the post, even though he's one of the shortest players in the league. Watch Pierce play in the post. He knows exactly what he's doing down there. And, and same thing with Florentine, just another guy who exactly what you're getting. Linguini, Alfredo, Spaghetti, whatever you call him, Greg. This dude is he's got it all. He's a great player. He's long. He's versatile. He could shoot. He can play defense. And I really like what he brings to the table for this team. And, just a bunch of other familiar faces. These guys all, they give it everything they have when they're out there. They're one of those teams that definitely does not slack in the effort department and definitely not in the hustle department. So, when these guys walk out of in sports, they're always dripping in sweat, from head to toe. So these guys are definitely they're going to be out there giving it their all, and they're for real. They're not going to take it easy on you. And they're going, like I said earlier, last year they were one of the most physical teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way they remain this season.
Connor, before I get into Nick Strong here, I hate to inform you that Alfredo is not a type of pasta. Linguini, Alfredo, spaghetti. Quote from Connor Sauer.
They're all pasta dishes.
In November.
It matters. They're in the same category.
Alfredo's a sauce.
Oh yeah.
They're all related. It's got to be the Braves.
They're all pasta dishes. That's all that matters. Okay, you put Alfredo on pasta. Like, I'm not having this argument.
All right, all Italian meals aside, I'm actually gonna go and disagree here with Connor and Greg about Nick Strong. They are dogs. They do fight. They huck up shots. You're completely right. They come out of the gym in sweat. this year they're going to come out of the gym in sweat because every team is going to run them so hard up and down the court because a lot of these teams are transition teams. Yes, they play physical, and yes, they hook up 30 shots a game. And Anthony Vesicchio, maybe he's a really good three-point shooter. Maybe he got a little bit lucky last season because he was shooting from way beyond the arc. So I think teams are going to figure this out. I think they're going to be able to close him out beyond the arc. And, they're still going to have to put up a lot of shots. But there's a huge problem when you put up these shots. It's a 50-50 chance. Does that ball go in or is that rimming out? And is the other team going down the other end? I think that Nick Strong this season is going to finish probably lower tier of the middle teams in this league. I really don't see them having a season. I think last season that they had the advantage where they were the new guys. Teams didn't know what to expect whenever they came on the court. I think that this season teams are going to realize that, on those three balls, they're going to have to close out even harder. And I really don't think that they'll be able to overtake the post from some of the guys that we've been talking about as of late.
Greg is more than ready for our next team. Let me just say this. Nick Strong did win 6 games last year. We're a 5-6 seed. And so for a new team, that's a very, very good first season. Speaking of our next team, we're going to pan to Greg over here, the Flint Tropics, representing, but there's no T. So very, very interesting on his shirt. But they are wearing light blue and orange. Oh, it's there. It's there. My bad. It was hiding. The Flint Tropics. So they are back. The last time the Flint Tropics played was last winter, and they were 5-4. I looked it up. They would argue they were 6-3, but their record is 5-4. And so let's get to their team. A lot of familiar faces with one new face, a notable new face, I might add. Tyler Japps, Cody Doubleday, Ryan Caggiano, Mike Bizzuto makes his return, Matt Sear, TJ Gianni, Mike Druin, and Dom Migliaro, who went and played basketball in college with Mike Bizzuto. And so they are good friends. That chemistry should not be an issue, even though it will be their first time playing together in the Legacy League. It's not their first time playing together. Greg, it's only right we start with you. I was going to mix it up because we're getting a little pattern-ish over here. But, Greg, when you make a outfit change mid-podcast, you have to go first. So let me just say this, Greg. It's going to be hard to drive the Flint Tropics bandwagon and the Nick Strong bandwagon at the same time. I don't know what you're going to do. It's the first time they're in the league together. And so I think Greg Horne has some decisions to make before, Anthony Vesicchio, beats up Sam for saying he may have got lucky for making all those threes.
But Greg, deal with it.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay. Greg, I love it. The floor is yours. Your Flint Tropics are back, bud.
So let's be real. When Flint's in the league, first of all, you want to talk about jersey size? I would screen share this if I could. Extra large, and then 7 largest. They don't even got a medium on their team. These aren't kids. All the other mediums in the league go to the playground. This is a man's league, and that's what Flint brings. You know what? I'm saying it right now. Flint's taking it all the way. I'm done.
Drop the mic.
Go ahead, Connor.
Mike. I mean, I don't know how I follow that up. I'll just talk about these guys. And for the people who don't know about the Flint Tropics, who might be listening to this pod, trying to scout out other teams, these guys are for real. They're going to chirp you up and down the court. These guys are as close as it gets in terms of friends. So they're always going to have each other's back. They're going to come at you like a gang of wolves. And adding Dom Migliaro into that pack, that's going to be a dangerous weapon for them to play alongside Dom, so he can attest for him being a two-way player on the court. He's definitely going to play D. He's going to provide you with offensive power as well, and he can shoot the ball. So, whatever they want from Dom, he'll give them. So I really like that addition. And then just having Mike Druin come back as well. He was in that summer season where they made their debut. He was their second leading scorer behind Bizzuto, and then he missed the next season when they came back for their second try. So now that he's back, their third go-around, that's one of their better players that we've seen. And adding him along TJ and Dom and Mike and Caggiano, Doubleday, it's going to be definitely a dangerous team. One guy that I'm not seeing on this roster is Tyler's brother, Nick Japps. When they brought him in, he was a absolute stud. And I thought he was just going to be another, typical guy that they were going to use off the bench, and he became one of their forefront pieces. So not seeing him makes me a little bit worried who's going to fill in those points. But like we just said, they brought back Mike. they got Dom now, so I think they figured it out, and I'm interested and I'm excited to see how these guys do.
Wow, Greg, I'm taken aback by your energy. I want a little bit what you're having over there.
What's in that cup, Greg?
Exactly. But in terms of being an analyst, I'm really siding with Connor. Greg, I think you're a little bit over the top on this one, but you got to respect the teams you like. I do think you got to choose between Nick Strong and the Flint Tropics. And if I were you, I think I would choose the Flint Tropics. These guys were really impressive the last time they came into the league, and only adding Dom Migliaro is a huge attribute. Connor, you said he'll give you whatever you need on a nightly basis, and I absolutely agree with that. I think that yes, not having Nick Japs is going to be a huge absence for this team, but I do think Dom can fill that role very well. He can power just about anybody to the basket and use his athleticism to propel his game. I really don't see too many problems coming here with the Flint Tropics. I really am wanting to see them go far in this league. I think that they could possibly make a shot at a title depending on which teams if they have to go past in the earlier rounds. But I think that they're a great team for this league because while they are big guys, an extra large and the rest of the team fills out in larges, they are younger than some of the teams that we have as well, where they can use their energy late into the season and not really get burned out by all the cardio that this league demands. So I definitely can see the Flint Tropics making a late postseason run and maybe stealing a couple games from a couple teams that should, in the preseason, finish ahead of them.
One of the good things for the Flint Tropics, I must say, there's no Stuckey around to cost them a win, more or less. So That's one good thing. The one difference from the last time they were in the league, Stuckey shout out, is no longer around. So maybe that was it. Maybe it's the curse of Stuckey. Who knows? And the last time we saw the Flint Tropics, you guys talk about their size. They were beating teams by 100. I'm going to leave that there. Just wanted to throw that out there. But the one similarity I think that's very interesting for Flint and Nick Strong, we talk about both of them, is Connor Stokes in his flashback moment over there. These two teams, Nick Strong and Flint, almost get in their own way more than other teams get in their way. And which team can adjust from that will be huge. They both acknowledge this, that they get in it with the refs maybe more than they want to, and they get in it with each other about the refs more than they want to, and that ends up costing them games. And so both Nick Strong and Flint now coming back, knowing that's a thing that they need to avoid. We'll see who can avoid it more so to help them get some wins. But it's going to be very interesting with all these teams. We're going to do some big picture previews after this, but just to throw it out there, 10 teams means the top 2 teams get a bye in the playoffs. So there is something to play for. Everybody plays everybody once. There's your 9 games, and then the top 2 teams get a bye. So the regular season does have some meaning, and it will affect those matchups like we talked about come playoff time. Team number 8, to keep it moving, the defending champs, Shocker City. So now, Greg, do you have a Shocker City shirt you want to put on or no? Is that it? All right, Chris is going to be very upset with you. So Radzinski's back.
Good.
Shocker City squad, along with Mike Davis, Carmine Santarelli, Terrell Vargas, Devon Pratt, and Corey Jacobs. And they add David Armstrong. So maybe there's 2 David Armstrongs. Who knows? Maybe he's going to play on 2 teams. Don't know how that's going to work. And then also Jason Hernandez. So we see a lot of the Throne players finding new homes, which is awesome because the Throne is not around this season. And so, Greg, Shocker City, the defending champs, a lot of the same guys, which at that point, you run it back. Doesn't get much better than that. But let me just throw out there, too, a tweet from No Limit. All it said was Summer 19. So we might be one season away from some things changing again in the league. But first, Shocker City defending their title, Greg.
Well, I'll just put it out there. According to my sources, Terrell Vargas wouldn't leave Shocker City if No Limit came back. But I mean,
I don't believe that.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that.
That's what I heard. But I mean, this team, it's pretty simple. Radzinski's not really going to make an impact. I love you, Radzinski, but I mean, in the big games, you're the player coach. You got Mike Davis, you got Carmine, Jason can shoot, and this is my thing with this team. if Jason Hernandez, I'm wondering if he will be better on this team because he doesn't have on this team. There's no way Mike Davis is just going to let him gun. There's no way Mike Davis is just going to let him shoot 20 times a game. In the end of the game last year, the thing we loved, I think, about this Shocker City team is as well as Carmine played, as well as Rel played, as well as Pratt played, as well as Corey played, who all played well. At the end of the game, especially I remember the Rim Breakers game when he hit the game time layup in overtime.
Yep.
Every single person, the same as TMC for you guys, Joey, everyone knows who's getting the ball for that shot. It's Mike. It's Reggie. You know who's getting it. And for me, with this Shocker City team, I don't think they added anyone that would take it away. You know, I was really impressed with how Rel kind of came in. And again, I heard that Rel said he'd be at every game this year. So if they can actually gain a chemistry with that going and have a big three of Mike, Carmine, and Rel, I think, again, they're going to be in the conversation with TMC, Shocker City, Chasers. Again, the Chasers, I got to see with the Chasers. I just got to see. And then there's Moose and Flynn in there too. But this Shocker City team has the best player in the league, in my opinion, with Reggie being number 2. And again, I'm never betting against Mike Davis.
Yeah, I'd say take notes, Chasers. They didn't rebrand their colors. White and gold, baby. Wichita State, Shocker City. I love it, dude. I love everything about it. And, you know, I expect these guys to come back as defending champs and really, you know, not really falter in doing so. I expect them to be in the championship. And anything can happen. And when it's a 1-game thing, you know, it's not a 7-game series. So, you know, upsets happen all the time in Legacy League's playoffs. It's not, you know, an unknown fact. So I'm really excited to see how these guys do. I think Jason Hernandez, you know, when we watch Jason play against these top dogs, he's very chirpy with these guys. I've seen him go at Mike. I've seen him go at Carmine. I've seen these guys have words, man. So I love how these guys are able to do that and then put their beefs aside and come together and play on the same team. This goes to show you that these guys are real ballers, because when you're on the court, man, you know, a lot of people say what happens on the court stays on the court. And I really like how these guys are able to do that in Legacy Leagues, able to be rivals during some seasons and then come back other seasons and team up. So I'm really interested to see how that dynamic works between Jason, Carmine, Mike, how they split up those guard minutes, if they all play at the same time, because if they do, that'd be a small lineup. So, you know, maybe a team sends out multiple bigs and tries to take advantage of them. But definitely a very diverse lineup. They got studs all throughout. So, you know, you got sleepers like Corey Jacobs and David Armstrong, who, if David Armstrong plays on this team, could be a pivotal piece in terms of the size that he brings, because just looking at their team, they don't have a ton of size. So I think that finding out where David Armstrong lands this year in the rosters is actually going to be more important than most people even think. So those are my thoughts on Shocker City for this upcoming season.
Yeah, woo, their logo is crispy. Who made that? Yeah. Quick plug. Chris, there's one thing I gotta say to you, mostly because I know you're gonna end up watching this. You're not Kyrie, you're not Jason Tatum, you're not Jaylen Brown, you're not Terry Rozier, you're not Al Horford, you ain't even Daniel Tice.
Oh my God.
You might show a little resemblance to Danny Ainge with this one. You know, I don't know how you did it, but you got, for the most part, the same team to come back that won a title. And I still see your name on the roster, which something kind of interesting. But you did cut the net down at the end of the year. Congratulations to you for that. But keeping this team together was so imperative for another title. And I'm saying it right now, Shocker City's winning the title again. Nobody can stop them. They have so many points coming from different sides of the court. You got Carmine, who I don't think there are many players in this league who can stop him. Mike Davis, I don't think anybody but Greg Langston can stop him, if that. And I don't think that many people are going to stop Terrell. The only thing I would like to see from Terrell is for him to be a little bit more aggressive than he was last season with Shocker City. When Terrell Vargas goes into the paint, I don't think there's going to be many people that want to go up with him. Pratt, the guy knows how to play a role. Stand in the corner, hit him on a catch and the shoot, and have him yell the whole time. It's a great thing to watch, especially for fans. Corey Jacobs, we've seen a lot of him in the past, and he's really portrayed his game and made it accustomed to what his team needs and what the Legacy Leagues offers for the strengths and weaknesses of the league. So he's really adapted very well to the 8.5 foot versus 10 foot rim difference. And then they go ahead and they add a player like Jason Hernandez, who from the throne was a premier player, absolutely premier and pivotal to any of their success. If we were, I know this is Legacy League is absolutely a positionless league, but if there were a position league, I'd throw him in the point guard role, and I'd say he's probably up there in the top 2, top 3 point guards in the entire league because he knows how to run the offense, knows where all of his teammates are going to be after playing with them, even for just a really short amount of time. He knows how to run the game of basketball. He has a high basketball IQ. And I think that's what Shocker City, even though they won the title last year, was missing. They needed somebody with that ball control, with that IQ, who can hit guys where they need to be and tell them where they need to be so we can feed them the ball. Players like Mike and Carmine and Terrell Vargas as well. This addition of Jason Hernandez also takes some responsibilities off of Carmine and Mike and Terrell as to where we see this in college and we see this in the NBA all the time. Players or teams will bring in point guards so their star and premier scorers don't have to worry about bringing the ball up, don't have to waste that energy. We haven't seen the Thunder do it yet with Russell Westbrook, but I think it's something they were looking into doing. But we see that with so many other teams. And I think that this is a great addition by Shocker City. And this makes them much stronger so that Mike and Carmine and Terrell and even Corey can focus on just being bucket getters rather than having to worry about their sole process of getting the ball up the floor and then worrying about having to get a bucket and what type of shot they're going to take. They can set up when they get down there. They can go play on a wing. They can go play in the paint. And they can play to their strengths rather than having too much on their mind. So great addition from Shocker City. They are my early pick to win the title. I know we probably haven't gotten there yet, but a little disclaimer right away.
I know a few guys who can stop Carmine, but you can save that for another conversation.
All right. So a few guys.
Whoa, you can't just drop that.
Wait. No. A few guys might be able to stop Carmine, but who's going to stop Carmine, Mike, Terrell Vargas, Devon Pratt, Corey Jacobs, and Jason Hernandez, all on the same team? You always say you can only put 4 guys on the same team. There's not 4 guys on one team in this league that are going to stop Mike, Carmine, Jason, and Terrell.
Feed the ego. You're right. Number 9, Rim Breakers. Yep, let them have it. Yep, Shocker City's loaded, guys. Shocker's loaded. You know, we probably give championship now, right? Just give it to him. Yeah.
Brzezinski said Mike Davis is texting Dave Armstrong, so we'll see what happens there.
Okay. Some live updates in the pod. I like it. The Rim Breakers are back. Zeke Howard, Richard Brunson, Chris Leak, Zachary Graham, John Pittman, Darnell Huckabee, Carl Fairfax, and a spot or 2 to fill later. Guys, we're going to go a little more quickly through these last 2. I do want to do some superlative stuff, but some notable names missing from this Rim Breakers team who were plays away from the finals last year. You guys know who's missing for sure. I think a lot of us do. Greg, what do you see from this Rim Breakers team, this version that they're going to have this winter?
Yeah, a little story time. I know for an absolute fact, Brzezinski asked Kavion to be on Shocker City. I know that for an absolute fact. And he told him he's not playing or he's playing with the Rim Breakers. That's exactly what he said. So clearly he just chose not to play. Gerald McLeese, I don't get why he wouldn't play, especially if KT is not coming back. He got the team for himself. He was one of the best players we've ever seen in the paint in this league. I mean, he absolutely dominated. His footwork down low was phenomenal. The way he would just abuse someone who didn't know how to guard a big man was, I mean, it was just incredible. And even in the game against you guys, Joey, he did his thing. And like you said, they were a few plays from the finals. So I really don't get what happened with this Rim Breakers team because without those 2, look, John Pittman comes back. John Pittman's a great player. Chris Leak's another great player. Richard Bronson's one of the more underrated players in this league. He's a great shooter. He's a high flyer. He'll probably be in the dunk contest again. But they don't have that the great teams like Sam was just talking about with Shocker City. You got Mike Davis, you got Carmine, you got Rel. TMC, you got Eric Langston, you got Reggie. Even the Chasers, you got Jalen Graham. I'm even blanking on name, but it's. I mean, even Flint, you want to go Bizzuto Migliaro. Bronson's, I'd say, up there, but I don't know if anyone else on this team is really in that class. And losing those 2 players, maybe the question mark is one of those players. But looking at this team right now, I see them as really a middle of the pack team, and I just don't see them living up to what they did last year. It's really going to be hard, especially with this year. Looking at these 10 teams, it looks like there's a lot more talent, and they lost their 2 best players.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say about this team real quick is that I think the guy that you're saying every team needs the guy. I think it's time for Chris Leak to kind of experience that Victor Oladipo effect, where he goes from being a role player to now, hey, dude, we need you to be like when the Pacers got Oladipo, they didn't trade PG for him to be a role player. And he went from being, somebody who has been a little bit disappointing, just coming off the draft, his first 2 years in the league, to really becoming one of the best players that are in the NBA right now, and especially on both ends of the floor. And I can kind of see Chris Leak being promoted in that same similar way, where it's like, dude, there is no more Turnbull, no more McLeese. Like, yeah, you were great last year as the 3rd option, but now we need you to be our number 1. So I want him to really step up and like Victor Oladipo has, and really filled those shoes for those Indiana fans. For anybody that's rooting for this Rim Breakers team, you need Chris Leak to be that guy, both ends of the floor. He's so athletic. He can jump out of the gym. And we saw him in the playoffs even shooting last year, which was kind of surprising, as we didn't really see him break that out too much. So if he can, carry that over into this season and really be the guy for this Rim Breakers team, like you said, Greg, they need that guy. And I think that's the dude to do it. And that'll be the dude to make this team a contender or not.
Yeah, these guys are going to need a lot out of Richard Brunson and also Zachary Graham, just to really solidify at the very least a big 2. Connor, I liked what you said a lot about Chris Leak. Greg, you did mention he was a high flyer, and I think that him turning up his skill a little bit this season, at least a little bit, to kind of maybe jump into that 2nd or 3rd option role right off the rip, is going to be very helpful for them. But him being a high flyer can add a lot to the team in terms of just staging momentum. He catches a couple bodies in the middle of the game, and you never know how well that's going to propel the rest of these guys on the floor to go ahead and snag a couple buckets from off moves that we didn't know they had in the repertoire. So I'm looking for Chris Leak to be even more of a motivational booster rather than a top guy in this league, and just maybe looking for him to be a top 3 guy on this team. But for the 1-2 punch, I'm looking Richard Brunson and possibly Zachary Graham.
For sure, and the Rim Breakers, yeah. Some key losses for them. The final team, Sports Look, returns once again. Scott Christie, Nick Baccarella, Stan Kokoros, and then some new names. Rich Flahive and John Zervos is a name we will recall. Just Charlie. I believe he played a couple games last year, but I don't get a last name apparently, so it's all good. John Condonis and Nick Chacho. So, guys, a couple new names, a couple familiar names for Sportsbook. I'm slacking on what their record was last year, but they were, I believe, like a 9 or 10 seed. Does anyone remember?
Did they have 3 wins, 4 maybe?
Yeah, they were 3 and 6, so they were 8, 9, and 10. They were right in the middle of the pack last year. But I'm going to grab some new headphones. But, guys, what do we think about Sportsbook? Greg, we'll let you kick it off.
All right. I mean, look, I think we all can agree we love Sportsbook. They're great guys. I mean, obviously, but it might be a rough year for them. I love John Zervo. I just don't really know enough about this team, and I know Nick Baccarella can play. I call him Dan K because I cannot pronounce his last name for the life of me, but he can play. He's a beast. And John Zervos, obviously, like I said, is a beast. But I just don't know any of these other guys. I don't know what they're going to bring. I don't even know if they're going to show up. And 99 Charlie, I don't know who Charlie is, but Charlie better be a baller, because I hope he's a baller, because they're going to need it. And especially with this league, like we said, there's 10 teams. There's really not a lot of room. You're going to be playing every team. And we've talked about maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 teams that right now I'd probably pick to beat this Sportsbook team. So, again, I love them, but it might be a rough year for these guys.
If Joey said Charlie was in the league last year, I do remember who that is. He's actually a big body down low. He was a great rebounder for them, had a couple really good games. Like I'm saying, some like 15-plus point games, 10-plus rebound, double-double type games. So he's definitely a guy that is not a slouch. He's going to give them a good post presence as well. We've been talking about it, basically, highlighting each team's big man and what they can bring to the table. That's what he's going to be for this team, because Dan K, yeah, he's a huge dude, if anybody watches Dan play, Dan shoots a ton of threes. Dan's out there on the perimeter most of the time. So Charlie's much more of your traditional big down there on the block. So I expect him to really give that team a good boost in terms of what they're going to get down low.
Yeah, some names that I recognize are off the rip: Scott Christie, Nicky Beccarella, Dan Kay, John Zervos. However, so with these additions, with the addition of some of these new guys, I really hope that one of them is the next Brian Acevedo in terms of raw talent, or else these guys are in trouble with the rest of the talent that is coming with the league. And all these teams are evolving from season to season, as we've seen since the inaugural in summer 16. And I see too many familiar faces on this team that, in comparison to the unfamiliar faces, that I just don't think that they've expanded enough and become accustomed with the talent of this league. So, like I said, unless one of them turns into the next Brian Acevedo in terms of raw talent, I think these guys are in trouble.
All right, guys, so let's recap our 10 teams really quick. We have Run TNC, Gentlemen's Club, Young Kings, Team Moose, the Chasers. We have Nick Strong, Flint Tropics, Shocker City, Rim Breakers, and Sports Look. We have about 10 minutes left. We'll start with either Greg or Sam. What do you guys like? Let's do some picks, even like finals picks. What two teams? I mean, it's just from the roster. Just on paper, a lot of stuff changes from now to March. But what do you guys like as your favorites very early on in this winter season?
I mean, you know what, Sam, you go first.
Okay.
All right, so I alluded to it before. Shocker City, they're my guys for the title. It is theirs to lose. Teams that I like coming up right behind them, I think the Flint Tropics and I think the Chasers and Team Moose are probably going to run up through the 4 seed. Run TNC is sliding in there. Joey's trying to make a run for his first title in his own league. And he's got a very good roster to do it. The question about that with this team for me is just how everybody is going to mesh. I talked a lot about roles, and a lot of these guys have had premier roles before, so it's just a matter of how they take it on the floor and how they handle within stress. Run TMC, I think, is going to be a very good team. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to be a very good team. But to me, I think you're still sitting behind possibly the Flint Tropics and possibly Team Moose in terms of making sure how everybody's going to measure, because a lot of these guys do have a lot of chemistry. And bottom of the league for me, it's looking like Sports Look, and then I don't know too much about Gentlemen's Club. I think Nick Strong might be down there as well.
Greg?
Yeah, I think you guys know who I'm picking right now. I'm gonna go Shocker City Flint, of course. I'm not gonna say who wins because I don't have to say who wins yet, of course, but I got my boys Flint in the finals. I just think I think Flint is coming back. They kind of want it. They call it with a vengeance, and I think a lot of the playoffs kind of goes off matchups, and they can get some favorable matchups here and there. Again, like I said, a team that you might want to look at. The Chasers are such an interesting team for me. Look, I think Run TMC top 3 in the league right now. If I had to rank my teams right now, I'd probably go Shocker City, Chasers, Run TMC, based off talent, raw talent. But if I had to base off who I think's in the finals, I'm going my boys Flint Tropics. So it's just there's this league. It's so interesting with some of the rosters because we don't know Jalen Graham's coming. We don't know really what's going on with David Armstrong with the Rim Breakers. They have a question mark. Team Moose has a question mark. And who's the anonymous? Like there's so many question marks in this league, and I know what I'm getting right now with Run Team C and Shocker City, but I'm staying true to Flint. So I got Flint and Shocker. And again, I agree with Sam completely with the bottom of the league. I think Gentlemen's Club, and I think, unfortunately, maybe Nick Strong would be there. Maybe.
He's bailing. Go ahead, Connor.
I mean, for me, it's tough to not pick Flint. I'm a big fan of those guys as well, like Greg is. I think Ryan Cash was our first interview on the pod, and he was awesome. He was definitely a good time. But for me, I'm going TMC as one of the finals teams and going up against Shocker City. So I think it's going to be a rematch, man. I really do. These two teams to me have the best set of players on each side. They really, you know, two-way players are what wins what wins this league most of the time. You know, if you have a bunch of guys that can, you know, fill the bucket up, that's one thing. But you know, these guys got guys that play both sides of the ball, like Eric Singleton and Eric Langston and Corey Jacobs, and you know, all these guys, Carmine, Mike Davis. These guys don't take any possessions off, and I really think that it's going to show in the finals. You know, these teams have, you know, just, you know, these guys have all the veterans, the best veterans. You know, Carmine, Mike, Reggie, Eric, like they're all in these two teams. It feels like so. I just feel like these are the two most stacked teams. And in terms of the bottom of the league, you know, it's tough to put Gentlemen's Club there, but I mean, how can you put them over a team that we know? So, you know, they're there at the bottom just for right now. You know, the season hasn't even started yet. So there's literally no offense to be at the bottom. It only means that you have room to improve. Only place to go is up from there and really just prove us wrong and rub dirt in our face if we are. So I think that they'll be at the bottom alongside, like you guys said, Sports Look, who, even though they're a good team, I just think that the league is a little bit smaller this year and the teams are, you know, I think a little bit more stacked. So it's gonna be tougher to make some climbs in the power rankings than maybe it has been in the past.
I won't make a finals pick because, you know, I don't want to be biased, but I do think Run TMC will be in the finals, and I'll just leave it there. Guys, so let's touch on your favorite off-season acquisition. So a player who changed teams. I'm throwing some stuff at him off the hook, so I'm going to ramble a little bit, but your player that switched teams that you think is going to have the biggest impact this season, or your most surprising change of teams, anything along those lines. Sam, are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Right.
I have a couple kind of going here. I like what you did with Run TMC. I like the additions of Mike Cody and Howie Miller. Specifically, I think that gives you what you lacked in past seasons, and that's dedicated three-point shooters who can stand out on the arc and let Reggie and you can let Eric Langston go to work. You can't forget about Eric Langston. But
what a slap in the face to me. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the point. But Mike Cody and Howie Miller, they've proven that they are absolute premier shooters in this league, and that's something that you absolutely can't ignore. The next addition is the one that I think I'm probably going to take from one of these two guys, and that's Jalen Graham on the Chasers. If he shows up, he is going to show out, and there is no doubt about that. He is another incredible talent that I'd love to see back in this league. So those three guys on those two different teams, I think are really going to propel these two teams and advance them far in postseason.
All right, Greg.
All right, I'm switching it up because I know Sam went a bunch of players and he kind of stole mine, but I got a good idea. I'm making my MVP pick right now.
Ooh.
Eric Singleton changed his number to number 1. I'm picking Eric Singleton as the MVP this season. I love the number change. Number 5, whack number, terrible number. Number 1, a great number. Shout out Tracy McGrady. I love the number change. I think Eric Singleton's motivated. I think he had an MVP type season last year, but was overshadowed by how well Reggie played. And obviously he doesn't care. He's a team player. He wants to win. But I think Eric's going to come back. He's going to come back with a vengeance. And to quote the great Connor Sauer, two-way players win championships in this league. Okay. Eric Singleton is one of the best two-way players in this league. So I'm going Eric Singleton on Run TMC. But a sleeper addition is Pooch on the Chasers. Pooch is one of those players that when he gets hot and he gets rolling, he can change the game in literally a blink of an eye. He is one of the most athletic players. And never forget, he missed the dunk contest. If he was there, to this day, I say he'd win it. So Pooch is a wild card, but I got to go Eric Singleton in the number change. He's winning MVP this year.
Now, wait, Greg, real quick. I think you're going to have some beef with Joey because I think you just real hardcore dissed Jason Kidd.
Did I really?
Jason Kidd wore number 5.
Oh, he did. You're right. Well, all right. Jason Kidd, the only great number 5 ever.
All right.
And Reggie Bush at USC.
The disrespect, man. But I like it, though. I like what you guys went with there. Sam stole my Jalen Graham pick. Greg just going completely off rails and just naming out MVPs. Like, this is what I deal with as a co-host who has to do a weekly show with this kid. He has no guidelines whatsoever. Whatever comes to Greg's mind, boom, blurt, blurt, blurt. So I'm glad you guys are starting to experience this. Now you know what I deal with on a weekly basis. But for me, my pick was it was Dom Migliaro, man. I really think that he's a good addition to that team. And not only what he brings as a basketball player, like Joey says, he's got off-court chemistry with Mike Bizzuto playing at Southern together. So these guys, these guys are good friends. They're going to mesh well. And I think that he's just going to be a real pleasant addition for them. And he's going to give them, like I said, when we were analyzing that team, he's just going to give them whatever they need. They need steals. They need blocks. They need 3-pointers. They need someone to. He's a strong kid. He can attack the hole and put his head down and put a dent in someone's chest. So definitely a guy that I'm not trying to step in front of while he's trying to go for an and one. I'm definitely not getting in front of that freight train. So any guard that's going to get matched up against Dom is going to be a mismatch. And I think that he's just going to be a really good player for that team and give them a lot of versatile use for that squad.
Wow, Connor, I wish you got to experience a podcast with me as your co-host.
Awesome. So Connor made his acquisition pick. Greg went off the rails. Connor, do you have a early MVP pick? And then we'll wrap it up.
Man, it's tough not to go Mike Davis as your early MVP pick. It's obviously it's a little bit chalky. And then I'm looking at like Mike Bizzuto, but then I don't want to pick two players from Flint. I just said Dom Migliaro. I'm gonna kind of go with my boy here. This is gonna be this is not a favorite, but I'm saying Melquan Horton MVP. He has a chip on his shoulder. He's gonna be coming into this season. They lost Connor Daly, so now they need even more from Melquan than they did last season. And I just have a feeling that he's going to stuff the stat sheets. He might average close to a triple-double. I wouldn't be surprised. Definitely not a leading favorite. Obviously guys like Reggie and Mike are going to be up there towards the top, but just an interesting guy who could be in the race come the end of the season is definitely Melquan Horton for Team Moose.
Sam, an MVP pick?
I think the MVP here is going to depend on a couple of the successes of a couple teams. I think one good possibility, honestly, is Howie Miller from Run TMC, depending on how well he can propel Run TMC. I know a big special or a big few attributes of him that we like to see are how well he can fly and how well he can shoot. And another one is Jason Hernandez, actually, to see how much better he can make Shocker City. I think those two guys have a decent shot at possibly making a run for an MVP here.
Awesome, guys. Very good job. That'll put a cap on the first ever Google Hangout Weekly Rebound edition with some old friends. I'm still a current friend. Sam's an old friend. I'll be around for sure. I know.
This is throwing it way back. I like to see that we're expanding into Google Hangout versus Free Conference Call. Plus, Joey, I really like that shirt. Who made that?
Yeah, I don't know. What a design. This will be what it's all like nice and we're doing some new things. We got Greg showing off Flint. We're going to have some new merchandise, some new warm-ups for this season, as well as new jerseys. So we're trying a ton of new things, as well as some new media stuff, getting away from some of the game highlight stuff, doing more of these kind of shows where we're live and you guys can watch, whether on YouTube, we can embed them on Facebook and Twitter and all over the place. I survived an hour and 8 minutes with you guys. And I didn't die. So I'm very proud of myself. Very good job to all you guys. For Connor Sauer, Greg Horne, and Sam Leventhal, I am Joey Zocco. This was the first episode of the Weekly Rebound. Guys, is this the 6th season of the Weekly Rebound?
No, is it really?
Yeah, 6th.
So there you go.
How many seasons did I do?
You did 3.
What did I create? I gave these guys a podcast?
Yes, you did. You might regret.
No, as long as it's continuing and I like to see how this is growing, and wow, I just can't believe it's 6.
It's crazy.
6 seasons of the podcast, and we begin season 6 with a lovely crew. I can't wait to have some more guests on this season as Greg and Connor take back over. And guys, next time you guys are here, we'll have 1 week of games in the books of the Winter 19 season of the Legacy Leagues. I'm super excited for everybody. We got to get you guys some swag. Got to get that Flint Tropics thing off and some Legacy Leagues gear on.
Thanks.
But for everybody, I'm Joey. Thanks for watching. And we look forward to another great season of the Legacy Leagues in Connecticut and Rhode Island. We will see you after week 1, the first week of games, December 3rd. Thanks for watching.